What's up, everyone? Bryce Alford here, and this is episode 86 of the Talking Grammar Podcast.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jeff Grammer with the Albuquerque Journal, and this is the Talking Grammar Podcast. As you saw and as you heard, Bryce Alford is the guest, the interview guest for today's episode, and much appreciation to Bryce for joining us on episode 86 of this podcast, a little summer edition here, one that I hope to get rolling periodically throughout the summer and the off season. There's been a lot going on, as a lot of people know, since the Lobo basketball season ended for Lobo basketball. There's been unfortunate tragedy. 3 former Lobo greats have passed away unexpectedly, far too young, frankly. And in Drew Gordon in a car crash, Greg Brown in a car crash, and Ruben Douglas in Costa Rica got a virus and died because of an infection related to that virus. So all 3 of those former Lobos are going to be honored next week at a kind of an alumni all-star game, if you will, the TBT, the basketball tournament, of which Bryce Alford will be a part. He will be playing for the Enchantment, which is technically referred to by TBT as a UNM alumni team, but it's really a team made up of primarily people with UNM, or not UNM rather, but the state of New Mexico connections, like Bryce Alford, who played his entire high school career in Albuquerque at Cueva High School. Scott Bamforth has been a star on this team the last 2 summers, and he never played at UNM. He was a Del Norte High graduate. So they will be playing a team of UNM Lobo alumni, an actual Lobo alumni all-star team, Tuesday, July 16th in the Pit. Doors will open at 5 p.m. for that game, the TBT versus Lobo Alumni All-Star game. That game is, like I said, the doors open at 5 p.m. They will honor some of the proceeds for that. Will go towards the families in any way. And one team it'll be the Enchantment. The team that will be playing in TBT in Houston the following week will be Team Gordon, honoring Drew Gordon, of course, who died at the age of 33 in Oregon in a car crash. Team Douglas, honoring Ruben Douglas, will be the alumni team. And there will also be a Greg Brown 3-point contest going on in that night in the Pit. Fans, again, can get tickets at UNM Lobo ticket office and online at golobos.com. Some money will be going to the families. Some of this is also a fundraiser for the TBT team to go out to Houston, where they will be playing a team in the first round, Boise State alumni team. That includes the likes, some familiar faces, frankly, in recent years of Boise State basketball, including Max Rice, who was a Lobo killer for several years and kind of did Lobo fans dirty a little bit in the Pit by hitting every single shot and just making them groan like crazy. And he's a coach's son. He comes up in the conversation I have with Bryce Alford about being a coach's son and playing in TBT. So that was fun. This conversation I have with Bryce does touch a little bit on the coach's son aspect. Touches a little bit too on some news that came out today. So related to some news that came out today. Bryce now who's still playing professionally, by the way. Bryce Alford, 29 years old, still lives in the Phoenix area. His wife and son, 2-year-old son, who will be here next week for the Bryce Alford Basketball Camp. We get into that as well. He works out in Phoenix with, among many others, Marcus Shaver, former Boise State player who will be on that Boise State team in the TBT. But he also works out with Jalen House, the former Lobo. So we talk a little bit about Jalen House. The reason I'm bringing all that up right now is that as I record this intro today on Monday, the Boston Celtics finally have released their Summer League roster. And while it's kind of been understood for a little while that Jalen was going to be on their roster, it did get released today. Jalen House will be playing in the NBA Summer League for the Boston Celtics. And, of course, his dad, as many people know, Eddie House, played for the Boston Celtics, won an NBA championship. And I think that's pretty cool, not only the connection with his father, but just that Jalen House is getting his opportunity. He really shined in the NBA pre-draft combine. I thought he did enough to maybe get an invite to the combine. That didn't happen. Certainly didn't. He obviously didn't get drafted. But he's a guy that really parlayed the second half, in particular, of his fifth year, his senior year at UNM, into what I think a lot of people could see as a very productive professional career. And he's a guy that had his ups and downs. I suppose if you want to even say that he had ups and downs emotionally or on the court and how he acted, but he never once wavered in his effort and his energy on the court, which is something Bryce Alford talks about, something that coaches and teammates appreciate from him. He's a unique player, obviously, and energy and effort was on full display in the Mountain West tournament when the Lobos won 4 games in 4 days to get to punch their ticket and get into the NCAA tournament for the first time in a decade, and then that decade-long NCAA tournament drought. So that was pretty cool. Again, like I said, this episode is a conversation with Bryce Alford. His basketball camp is next Monday, July 15th through the 18th at La Cueva High School. This will be the third time he's held a Bryce Alford basketball camp, and he's been coming back for years. His wife is from here. Again, he's from here. I know people sort of associate the Alford name just with Steve Alford and the guy that left UNM to go coach at UCLA and all that. It'd be silly to ignore the fact that the Alford children grew up and graduated high school. 2 of them anyway graduated high school in Albuquerque. I know the youngest did not graduate in Albuquerque, but did attend school here as well. So they're New Mexicans. They grew up in their formative years here in Albuquerque and come back. Both Corey and Bryce have married Albuquerque girls and come back, Albuquerque women, I should say, and come back to visit regularly, on a regular basis. So they are very much still New Mexicans, and it's not just about their dad happened to coach UNM. They are from here. So his basketball camp, like I said, July 15th through the 18th. That'll be next Monday, I guess through Thursday. And on the Tuesday night is when that TBT alumni game, TBT team, the Enchantment versus the UNM alumni roster, will be played in the pit. Doors open at 5. Get your tickets. You can check it out at golobos.com. Brandon Mason is sort of behind a lot of putting that together, of course, like he always is and always has been. We touched on Jalen House getting named to the Boston Celtics NBA Summer League roster. NBA Summer League, for those that don't know, starts on Friday, July the 12th, and runs through Monday, July 22nd. How much players play is always kind of a little bit of a crapshoot. The teams certainly want to first and foremost get an idea of how their draft picks are performing, how maybe some of the players from last year that didn't play a lot during the regular season and playoff run, how they can perform against live competition like this. And then guys like a Jalen House who are filling out the roster, then they kind of get their opportunity after that. So Jalen House is going to have to make the most of his time because he is not probably considered a priority like the draft picks on the roster might be, or like last year's young players might be. But he is a guy that can make an impression pretty quick. So if he wants to stick around, I know that his goal certainly is to play professionally, and he will, and he'll make some good money. His goal is to play domestically, to stay in the United States, stay closer to his family. He has a young child, obviously, and I do think that he has an opportunity to maybe do that. He's a really unique player in that he is only 6 foot tall and only weighs, I don't know if he weighs 170, maybe more like 160 at times, but he is a guy that his defense and his effort is a unique role. Alvarado plays it tremendously, I think. And I think he's a guy that can play that role in the NBA, but it is such a unique role that it is a tough road ahead for Jalen House to make an NBA roster. But first step, or the next step anyway, is NBA Summer League. He gets his opportunities. So I also wanted to mention, I just got off the phone a little while ago with some people at UNM just to kind of get the particulars. This Saturday will be a celebration of life, a public celebration of life for Greg Brown, the former Lobo who died recently at the age of 51 in a car crash just outside of Albuquerque. His daughter, of course, Amaya Brown, played for the Lobos in her final year after starting her college career at Florida State. His son just graduated high school, is a very highly sought after basketball prospect himself, played at a school in Atlanta this past year. And I think Greg Brown, coming from Albuquerque High and being a state champion at Albuquerque High, and then moving on to becoming a WAC champion for the Lobos in the '90s. Like he is at 5'7", kind of the everyman Lobo. You know, he was the guy that not only was from New Mexico, and went on to be a Lobo star after playing in New Mexico Junior College. Let's not forget that not even the Lobos got him right out of high school. So Dave Bliss did benefit from Greg Brown coming after New Mexico Junior College to become a Lobo and just be, a WAC player of the year, just a stud that senior year. And just real unfortunate news in an offseason that's now, like I mentioned, has had three of these really sad moments for the Lobo basketball family. And Greg Brown's celebration of life will be Saturday in the pit at 11 a.m., free and open to the public. The doors on the northeast side of the pit. Parking is free as well. The doors on the northeast side of the pit will be open, and from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on Saturday at the pit. Saturday will be July 13th. Saturday, July 13th, 11 a.m. A public celebration of life for Greg Brown. To my knowledge, there's only been a couple of other people that have had memorial services like this in the pit. I think Bob King and Johnny Tapia are the only two, unless I'm forgetting somebody from the sports world. I think those are the only two others that in the sports world that have had public memorials in the pit. Pretty, I guess, symbolic. I mean, I don't know who else kind of rises to the level that Greg Brown does, where he was a local kid, kind of became that Lobo star, and frankly, at 5'7", I think sort of kind of made him a fan favorite just because of the way he played, but he was also so dominant. And just tragic news when he passed earlier this month. And I guess it's July, so last month rather. So there's some news, some updates in the next week. What's coming on with the NBA Summer League, Bryce Alford Camp next week, Bryce Alford Basketball Camp.com. You can get more information on that. TBT and the Enchantment team, their tournament starts, I believe, at the end of next week in Houston. And look, they made it 3 rounds in last year, and they've made it a step further each year. This TBT team has a chance. It's got 3 great shooters. It's got Scott Bamforth, it's got Bryce Alford, it's got Anthony Mathis, it's got a bunch of other pieces around it. So they got a chance. Hope you enjoyed this conversation I had with Bryce Alford. He's a New Mexican. He did go play for the UCLA Bruins. He was the guy that was supposed to be that for a long time. He was the future Lobo, right? He was the guy that was going to be the local kid playing for the Lobos, and his dad took the UCLA job and he moved on. So this will be the closest he ever gets to actually doing what so many people thought he was going to do for a long time, and that was play for the Lobos. So hope you enjoyed this conversation, episode 86 now of the Talking Grammar podcast. And here you go. Here's Bryce Alford. I'm just going to get rolling here, man. Bryce, how have you been, man?
Been good. Just another off season. Just finished my 7th year playing professionally. 4 years overseas, so been bouncing around quite a bit. But yeah, happy to be back. Happy to be back in the States and enjoying the off season.
Just so you know, if you guys hear a little something in the background, as I record this, I'm right by a window when there is some Albuquerque fireworks going on right outside
That's all good.
my window. So Albuquerque, and you'll be back this week, right?
Yes, I will.
Back. Let's talk about that a little bit. You are an Albuquerque kid, and sometimes I think there are some people that sort of forget that. They just think of it in terms of the Alford name was the coach that left. They forget that, like, there wasn't just a couple of sons and a daughter that were part of the family. You grew up here, man. Like you did your high school graduation here. You and your brother both graduated high school here. Left a mark on high school basketball here, and you still get back here. And it's not just your wife as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, my wife was 2 years older than me. She was same grade as my brother Corey. She was also at La Cueva. But yeah, like you said, I mean, My biggest years of my childhood were in Albuquerque, so that's really where I grew up, my middle school and high school years. So, um, still have a ton of friends that live there. Obviously, my in-laws live there, so I have family there. And then yeah, I love coming back. It's a special place to me. It's a special place for our whole family, not just me. My brother also married his wife from Albuquerque. She was El Dorado, unfortunately, but yeah, he married his wife from there. So we have a lot of ties that still keep us coming back to Albuquerque.
And it is a true tie when you make comments like that about El Dorado, the old rival. So there is still some Albuquerque blood for sure.
Yeah, still
When
there.
you say Albuquerque's still a big part of the family, your immediate family is now what? It is a wife and one child.
Yeah, I got a 2-year-old boy, AJ. Yep, AJ just turned 2 in April. So yeah, he's a little maniac running around like crazy, and we're teaching him things. And we just had a family vacation, so we got time with my dad, mom, his grandparents, and then my grandparents. So his great grandparents, he got to see. So those are just special times. He's growing up so fast, so being overseas for 8 months, it's hard to get those times, but we just had a really good family trip, and he's doing great. So our hands are full with him, but we love every second.
How much time are they able to go overseas with you, or were they with you the whole time?
They usually it's different every year depending
Okay.
on where I'm at and how difficult the travel is, but usually I'll go over there for about a month to get things ready, get an apartment ready, that sort of thing, and then they'll come over for the majority of the year and then sometimes leave early. So this past year they were over there for about 6 months out of the eight. So I
Good.
get them for majority of the year, which is great.
How much more of this overseas basketball is part of the Alford life?
That's the $1 million question. I'm not
Be nice if it
sure.
was $1 million question, right?
Yeah,
It'd
yeah.
be an easy answer.
I'm not sure. I love to play. Yeah, anybody that knows me or watch me play, I'm as competitive as it gets. I get that from my dad. It's hardwired in our DNA. So the competitor in me tells me to play until the wheels fall off. And I've also been very blessed that my body has held up very well. I've had no major injuries up until my sixth year professionally. I'd never missed a game, high school, college, or professional. And I think I've missed a total of maybe 4 games my entire career. So I've been very durable. I've been available, and I love to do it. But as AJ gets older and things kind of change within our family dynamic, it does get more difficult to go over there for 8 months. So I think it'll be something every summer my wife and I talk about, and we kind of have to just navigate the opportunities and kind of see what we want to do.
Have you made a decision for the coming year?
I'm not signed yet. My agent's working on it, so I'm looking for jobs. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just kind of waiting to see what opportunities are there, and if it's something we like, then we'll do it. But as of right now, my plan is to continue playing.
The start of this, we talked a little bit about Albuquerque being the home, right? And obviously all about basketball is basically what I'm talking about on this podcast. Anyway, let's talk about your camp a little bit. You not only come back to visit family, but you've come back almost every year. I know COVID sort of threw a wrinkle into that a little bit, but you've been coming back for a while now to put on a camp at La Cueva High School every year. Will it be at La Cueva again? And tell us a little something about the camp, which I'll note and I'll put up here on the screen. You can still get some information on at Bryce Alford Basketball Camp.com. So tell me about your camp. When's it coming this year? I know it's about a week from now, right?
Yeah, so a week from Monday, so July 15th through the 18th at La Cueva again. This will be our third year doing it. We got to do it last year, and then I think the first year we did it was 2018 or 2019. And then COVID obviously kind of screwed that up for a few years. So my plan is to do it every year. I love doing it. I think it's been a very good camp for 3 years now. We get a ton of really good sponsors that help put on a really good event. Gian Casali and the Casalis have provided food every year through Saggio's. And he just opened up a new spot called Gimani's. That's like the hottest place in town, a little pizza joint. So he's sponsoring again, so we're gonna have the kids are gonna have Gimanis, they're gonna have Saggios. So the kids get very spoiled for 4 days, and they get to learn a lot. And each year, I try to bring kind of newer and bigger and better counselors to come help and teach the game. So I'm going to have a few former teammates stop by this year, which will be great. Um, but yeah, it's a great week of teaching and having fun. And we've gotten great feedback from parents that the kids love it and they want to come back. And we've had a good turnout. So we're very excited for this year.
How much on the court is Bryce Alford still showing off that he can play a little bit when you're on these camps? You getting on the court to show him a little?
Yeah, so that's one of the cool parts about my camp is I try to offer that to show um, the weird thing is none of these kids know who I am. They didn't grow up watching me really. It's weird to say that I'm actually that old now that these kids didn't actually get to watch me in high school or college.
You're
So
almost 30, right? What are you,
I'm
29?
29. So yeah, and most of these kids are, from ages, I think we do third grade to ninth. So some of the older kids might know, but it's really their parents that remember me. So I kind of have to show them like, hey, this is why you're at my camp. This is why our shirts say my name on it. So, but every day at camp during lunch, we'll all go eat lunch and then I'll finish quickly and then they'll come watch about the last 20 to 30 minutes of my individual workout that I do every day. So they get to see what a professional basketball player does on a daily day basis, which is cool for them. They get to see drills that I do. And then it's cool, they get to see somebody that's making NBA range threes and different things like that. They always ask me to dunk, which each year continues to get harder. So I'm trying to bring in counselors that dunk better than me so they can take that off my shoulders. But yeah, I love to kind of show the kids what I can do too.
You can be able to get some help from some of the TBT teammates this year?
Yeah, so Joey Brunk will be there. He's my Indiana guy that I played with in Czech Republic, so he'll be working it. Anthony Mathis will be there. My boy Nate Strong, who helps with TBT, he'll be in there. And then a few others. I don't have it completely set in stone yet, but there's going to be a ton of really good counselors.
Let's move on to that. The TBT opportunity has been there before. You've played in TBT before. For those that don't know, can't imagine there's a whole lot of people watching this podcast that don't know what TBT is. But for those that don't know, TBT is the basketball tournament, and it is the $1 million or winner take all tournament that has really become kind of summer basketball, right? I mean, there's NBA Summer League and there's TBT, and those that's kind of the holdover for a lot of basketball junkies, really, in the month of July and into August. So, first of all, you have played in it before, but this is the first time you will be joining the New Mexico team, which originally Brandon Mason sort of put together as he wanted it to be an all-inclusive New Mexico team called the Enchantment, and then it separated for a year or two into the Lobo alumni team and the New Mexico State alumni team. Now it's kind of back while it is technically a UNM Lobo alumni team. It is really more about New Mexico ties. And that said, you were the longtime future Lobo for a long time, and you knew Lobos. I mean, you know Lobo basketball as much as maybe some of these players that wore a Lobo jersey for just 1 or 2 years sometimes. So, what's it going to be like to put on? Not necessarily a Lobo jersey, but this Enchantment jersey is somewhat symbolic to UNM ties, and there's going to be a lot of ties to Lobo players of the past because it's been a rough offseason. I'll touch on that
Mhm.
in a little bit too. But what's it going to be like playing for a UNM alumni basketball team?
Yeah, I mean it's not wearing a UNM jersey, but it's probably the closest thing I'll ever get to it. So yeah, again, it's an exciting opportunity to represent the state of New Mexico, the city of Albuquerque. I've been kind of holding out on doing it because I wanted to play in the pit, and they weren't playing in the pit the last few years, and they aren't this year. But that was going to be my big selling point to play was to just play in the pit again. I hadn't played in the pit since my last game in high school when we lost in I think the quarterfinals or semifinals, whatever it was. But yeah, it's a cool opportunity. I know all the guys really well. I've gotten to know Scotty Bamforth for a long time. He's older than me, but I was going to Del Norte Sports and Wellness and playing against those guys when I was in eighth grade. And I think he was in college. But yeah, just there's a lot of ties to the team, and obviously, Brandon Mason is a very close friend of mine, and he's helped me out a lot. He sends a lot of his kids to my camp as well. So just an exciting time. I got a lot going on this next couple of weeks with the state of New Mexico, so I'm excited for it.
I know I asked you this when it first came out that you were going to be on the TBT team, but how much of this is just to shut Brandon Mason up and quit bugging you every year to join the team?
There's some of it. There's some truth to that for sure. He's asked me, I think, every year for 3 or 4 years now. So I can close that door now. He can kind of call other people, and I'm bringing a good player with me. So that's definitely part of it.
Tell people a little more about that connection you are bringing. One of the, I think there's three guys that really don't have a New Mexico tie, other than they know some people
Yeah,
on the team. One of them is a guy that played with you. He's from Indiana, I believe, right? Isn't Joe? Is
yeah,
he from
Joey
Indiana?
Brunk. Yeah.
Tell me how you know him and how how him joining this team kind of came about.
Yeah, so I got just randomly I got we got put on the same team in Czech Republic. We signed to the same team to start last season. And we both left that team around the same time, about 2 months into the year. But I just got to know him really well there, and we bonded on a lot of levels since he's from just the south side of Indianapolis. He actually lives 45 minutes from my grandparents' lake house. So when I was up there last week, I got to see him again. Um, but just it's rare to kind of when you're navigating the Europe life for basketball, it's rare to have somebody that's got that much in common with you from the same area. So we got very close, and then when I started talking to Brandon about playing, I told him I was like, "Hey, I'll play, but I'm bringing somebody with me." And so then he didn't even ask who it was, didn't care. He said, if I get you to play, then you can bring whoever you want." So, but Joey's a good player. He averaged about I think 16 points and 8 rebounds for my team in Czech Republic, and he played at Indiana, Butler, and Ohio State in his college career. But a big 7-footer that can really play and score inside. So he's going to be a big help for us.
How well do you know this Enchantment roster? Are you guys, you guys? I know it's the easy answers. Of course, you got a chance, but I mean, how well do you know this? You've been in this tournament before, and I know it's a little bit random, but does this roster have what you think is are the pieces to kind of make a run?
Yeah, random is the correct word to describe this tournament. You never really know what you're going to get. I played it in 1 year in the COVID year, and it was in a bubble. And I played for Floyd Mayweather's the money team, and we had some of the biggest names in the whole tournament. We were up by 30, and then lost to a Marshall team that came back all the way in the fourth quarter and beat us. So it's a weird tournament, but it's really fun. It's very competitive. There's a ton of talent. It's high level basketball. So. Um, 95% of these teams aren't going to practice much at all leading up to this, if at all. So we have a full week of preparation, the week of my camp, that I think majority of the guys will be there. And this is a team that, have a lot of the guys that played last year or 2 years ago that have won games in this tournament. So I think that goes a long way. Having guys that have experience. Obviously, the Elam ending's a different deal. So if you don't know how that goes, the end of games can get crazy. So having that experience, having guys like Scotty, myself, Anthony Mathis, guys who have been a part of that, I think we have a good roster. We have a roster that, if our outside shooters make shots, I think we can probably beat anybody. But obviously, you got to play well, and you got to, get stops and do all the things that it takes to win. So it's gonna be interesting. We've looked at the our first opponents, Boise State, so we've looked at them a little bit, and just kind of studied the roster. I know a lot of those guys just because they're Mountain West guys. But yeah, it should be fun.
Max Rice is on that team. He's I don't know if you know this, he's the son of a coach. And
Yeah.
did he if I'm not mistaken, he might have reached out to you at least a little bit back when he was deciding whether or not to play for his dad Leon. And is that something that you recall happening?
Yeah, my dad mentioned it. I can't remember if I spoke with Max directly, but I know that he definitely reached out in one way or another, and that coach's kid connection, it's obviously a special deal. So he's a big time shooter. I know he hurt my dad's Nevada team quite a bit, a few times over the last few years.
Heard the
Marcus
locals a lot.
Shaver is, yeah, Mark, he had a big one in the pit last year. Marcus Shaver, I played against in Czech Republic this past year, and he works out here in Arizona where I work out. So I know a lot of those guys, so it'll be a familiar group of guys to play against.
The you mentioned if the outside shooters are hitting, you being one of those outside shooters, I will kind of kind of encapsulate this just within the team boundary and the team makeup, but who's going to win in TBT they call it the 33 point contest.
Mhm.
Who's going to win the 3 point contest just within the enchantment? Because I mean, I don't even know who would be the favorite. Is it Bryce Alford? Is it Anthony Mathis? Is it Scott Bamforth?
That's a hard one. I'm always going to choose myself, but I've watched Anthony do that competition before, and he's gone really far. And he might even be better. He might be better than me at just like stand still, top of the key, just draining them back to back. And then Scotty, if he gets going, he makes every shot he shoots. So um, I'd say it's whoever's hot because any of the three of us can make. I don't know. I don't even know how it goes, but I think what is it, 11 makes you got to make or
Yeah,
something like
first
that.
one to make 11 of them. Yeah.
Any of the three of us can make 11 straight on any given day. So it might be a contest of who can shoot the fastest at that
Yeah.
point.
Um, TBT obviously is part of what's bringing you back to Albuquerque. The family ties we talked about, the camp we talked about. Anything though that is kind of go to when you get back to Albuquerque. You've mentioned in the past kind of where you might go get a breakfast. I know you see family and stuff like that. Is any of that kind of the go to when you get back to town?
Yeah, I mean, I've got my food spots that I crave for, 11 and a half months out of the year that I'm not in Albuquerque. So Dion's is a must, Twister's is a must, Wex if I can get to Wex for breakfast, El Pinto, Sadie's. I'm gonna be at Gimani's this year. So all the food spots, I try to this week I got to eat very healthy because I know I'm
I was
coming
going to
to
say you spend a
Albuquerque.
week in Albuquerque eating at
Yeah.
all those places. You're going to look like me by the end of the week, man.
Yeah, TBT. I might need a bigger jersey by the time the tournament starts because I'm gonna go hard that week in Albuquerque for sure.
You mentioned Shaver, Marcus Shaver, and you work out in Phoenix. One of the other guys you work out with there, if I'm not mistaken, every now and then at least, is Jalen House. You
Jalen has been out here. We work out with the same guy as well, so I see him all the time. So yeah, he's out here. Scott Bamforth is out here. Marcus Shaver, tons and pros over here. So it's been a good spot.
the kind of flurry that Jalen House just finished his Lobo career off, winning 4 games in 4 days in the Mountain West tournament,
Mhm.
getting them back to the NCAA tournament for the first time in a decade. Which I know a decade ago when you were about to be a Lobo, you probably never foresaw that program not going to a tournament
Right.
for a decade. But Lobo basketball kind of got back. Jalen was a big part of that. I want to ask you 2 questions. One is how much did you watch the Lobos or follow them this past year, and how much as a person who knows him, I try and explain this to people a lot, but you know him better than most. Um, how different is Jalen House, the character on the basketball court during a game, compared to Jalen House, the person you know off the court, and you guys are sitting there after a workout, just hitting some Gatorade or whatever you guys are doing, and like how different of a person is he than what people see on the court during games?
Yeah, so to start with your first question, it's hard being in Poland and watching these games. I tried to watch my dad's games that started at 7 o'clock Eastern time, and it's like 4 a.m. start time. So I spent too many nights up at 6 a.m. Watching the games, but I followed the Lobos a bunch. I watched their tournament game, watched the Mountain West Conference tournament, obviously, and then all their games against Nevada I watched. So I got to see them quite a bit. I've watched Jalen a bunch. I worked out with him last summer before he was coming back. So I gave him a hard time about taking it easy on Nevada, and he was saying, "I got to beat your pops. I've never beaten him." So he got the job done finally. But Jalen is the nicest guy. I didn't know him a whole lot until this past summer, but obviously the way he plays is very fiery, and there's a lot that you can say, and you can say whatever you want about the way he plays, but off the court, he's an amazing guy, nice guy, great guy to work out with. I've heard nothing but good things. My trainer loves him. And then to be honest with you, with the way he plays, as a fan, as a coach, as a teammate, and as a player, that's what you want. I mean, to me, that's what you want. You want guys that care. In this day and age, with guys getting paid the way they're getting paid, and just the way that things are moving, you run into a lot of guys that just don't play like they care. So when you have a guy like him that can really ignite a game and change a game with just his attitude and the way that he competes, as a fan, as like I said, as a fan or anybody watching, that's all you can ask for.
A little different kind of on-court persona than Bryce Alford has, though.
A little bit, but I also got opposing fans didn't like me either. So
That's
I,
true.
I
Well,
understood
that's
I
true.
understood the hate. I had the coach's son tag with me. But I was also one that if somebody started chirping at me, I was never first. I was never the first guy to do it, but if they chirped at me, I was coming right back at you.
I did see even on the camp Instagram video that I saw, probably on all social, but I saw the IG video of your camp and you hit a three and you got the little six
Oh
shooters
yeah.
that you're putting in. So there's a little bit of
There's a little bit in that. Yeah,
get
for
caught up
sure.
in it and have a little fun with it. So awesome, man. Hey Bryce, this has been fun. Good catching up with you, and I know you'll be here in Albuquerque this coming week. Again, the camp is brycealfordbasketballcamp.com. I've mentioned it a couple times. I suppose I should make sure there's still some openings.
Yes, still openings. We'll take openings up until probably the day of camp or day before camp. We'll probably take walk-ups if we're not full by then. It is filling up quickly, and every year we get a ton of signups the week of camp. So if you haven't signed up, definitely get in there as quickly as possible so that we can get you ready.
It's good. It's good that you keep coming back and keep doing that. I know I appreciate it just as somebody from New Mexico when people come back and it is a state that people get out of sometimes and the ones that come back and kind of give back to it, it is important. You got the camp, you got TBT, you got a lot of things going. You got the little one, and is the wife and son coming out too?
They will be there. AJ will be running around camp. Allie will be in charge of a lot of stuff for camp with registration and making sure we don't lose any kids and that sort of thing. So they'll be there. They'll be running around.
And mom and I should have asked you this at the beginning about talking about family. I've asked you before, but mom and dad and FaceTime with AJ, how often is that? Like, are they doing it as much as they can? And is Steve Alford at all what anybody would remember Steve Alford coaching in the pit like when he's on FaceTime with his grandson?
No, he's a softie. He's a softie now. If I put AJ on the screen, he's a different dude. No, they love him to death. He's obviously he's the first grandson, or just grandchild in the family, and then my brother has his now. So they're amazing grandparents. They love him to death. They spoil him. But yeah, Allie and I get in trouble if we don't FaceTime every day. So that's kind of the part of the deal.
That's awesome, man. Bryce, I appreciate it. I will see you this week and look forward to it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, my man. I appreciate you.
All right, there you go. My conversation with Bryce Alford. Hope you enjoyed that. Much appreciation for Bryce for getting on the podcast, talking about his camp, talking about TBT, and everything we talked about. So, hope you enjoyed that. Again, you could subscribe to the Albuquerque Journal. You could help local journalism and help us continue podcasts like this. A lot of off-season Lobo basketball coverage and sports coverage in general that we've been bringing you. And you can help all that out by subscribing to the Albuquerque Journal. abqjournal.com/subscribe is how you can do that, and you can get a digital only subscription. You can get print. You can get a combination print and digital. Even in the off season, it helps us out tremendously, and hopefully I will be bringing you some more Lobo basketball content here pretty soon, talking about the new team, the new roster. I know I've written a lot about that already. I've been to a practice, just one practice of theirs, and also covered a camp that they were doing. Some of these new guys, I really like a couple of these new players that they got. So I'll be talking about a little bit more of that in some upcoming podcasts and coverage in the journal. We've also got a lot going on in terms of the upcoming football season. I know this week, as I record this, Sean Ryder is going to Las Vegas for Mountain West Media Days for football and the start of the Bronco Mendenhall era. I don't expect high expectations from anybody around the Mountain West in terms of the media poll for the Lobo football team, but I would be shocked if they don't hit the over on the Las Vegas odds. Opened in some places with 1.5 being their win total for the year. I'd be floored if they don't get to at least 2 wins to go over that win total. But most places have adjusted at least one game's worth anyway, and the win total is now at 2.5 for the Lobos football team this year. Frankly, I'd be a little surprised if they don't hit the over on that as well. I think this is a 4-win, maybe 5-win team. I don't see them getting to 6 wins and bowl eligible, but I'd be really surprised if Bronco Mendenhall's first year at UNM doesn't get this program sort of steered in the right direction a little bit. It's not that Danny Gonzalez didn't exactly have things going in a certain direction. I do think that the continuity on this Broncos staff, as weird as it sounds, since they all kind of came together after he got the job and he wasn't in coaching, but they all came together because they all know each other and they were basically waiting for Bronco to get a job. I think this staff and the coaching staff and Bronco in particular and the experience at every position and all that is going to pay some dividends. And however many wins a coaching staff can be worth, I do think this coaching staff might be able to get a couple. Roster talent is still roster talent, right? It comes down to how many guys on the team can stay healthy, and how many guys on the team are actually going to be really good football players. So we'll see about that. I don't know that they have much depth. I know he's optimistic, surprisingly so in my estimation, about the defensive line. It sounds like he really likes the defensive line. I do think they got a couple skill position players. So we'll see. I'm not like I said, I'm not projecting this Lobo team to be great by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not projecting them to even be a bowl team. But I do think that they will break or they will hit the over on the win total from Las Vegas at 2.5 games. I think this is probably a 4, maybe 5 win team, and we'll see from there. So, a little football talk there for you. I do love college football. I happen to cover college basketball, so that's what I talk and write about most. But anyway. Appreciate you for listening. Episode 86 here of the Talking Grammar Podcast. I'm glad you're here, however you're either listening or watching, and more to come soon. And thanks for watching.